Today is many things. One of the things that today is Transgender Day of Remembrance, founded in 1999 to honor Rita Hester, who was murdered in Massachusetts. It is an annual day to remember those who we've lost to anti-transgender violence in the past year. We will speak the names of these beloveds. There were at least 32 people who died in the US in 2022. We say at least because not all incidents are reported or are sometimes misreported when someone is misgendered. The vast majority of deaths reported year after year are transgender, Black, Indigenous, and/or women of color. We have so far to go to truly affirm the worthiness of every human and to honor our differences. Just last night, there was a shooting in Colorado Springs in a nightclub that specifically welcomes LGBTQ people. 5 people died and 18 were injured. This is not something far away or long ago. We speak these names in remembrance of their power and their courage to be themselves. We will also say their age and the city in which they died. With humble apologies for any mispronouncing of names. Tiffany Banks, 25, Miami, Florida. Samaj Billingsley, 33, Jacksonville, Florida. A.C. Morrison, 30, Rapid City, South Dakota. Maya Allen, 35, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Dee Dee Ricks, 33, Detroit, Michigan. Maddie Hoffman, 47, Malvern, Pennsylvania.
Aaron Lynch, 26, McLean, Virginia. Candy Reed, 29, Kansas City. Hayden Davis, 28, Detroit, Michigan. Maricela Castro, 37, Houston, Texas. Cherry Bush, 48, Los Angeles, California. Kesha Chanel Geeter, 26, Augusta, Georgia. Martasia Richmond, 30, Chicago, Illinois. Katie Monroe, age unknown, Cordova, Tennessee. Charmaine Giselle Marie, 27, Gulfport, Mississippi. Brazil Johnson, 28, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Sasha Mason, 45, Zebulon, North Carolina. Shanalika Iela Dior Hemingway, 30, Albany, New York.
Nedra Sequence Morris, 50, Opelika, Florida. Ray Muscat, 24, Independence Township, Michigan. Fern Feather, 29, Morristown, Vermont. Ariana Mitchell, 17, Hampton, Virginia. Maya Love Parker, 25, Chester, Pennsylvania. Kenyatta Keisha Webster, 24, Jackson, Mississippi. Catherine Katie Newhouse, 19, Canton, Georgia. Taliana LaBelle, 33, Chicago, Illinois. Paloma Vasquez, 29, Houston, Texas. Matthew Angelo Spempenido, 21, Newcastle, Delaware. Naomi Skinner, 25, Highland Park, Michigan. Cypress Ramos, 21, Lubbock, Texas. Duval Princess, 24, Jacksonville, Florida. Amarie Lage, 20, Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania.
Each of these people had a life, and their loss leaves pain and longing behind for friends and or for family. Today, we highlight a bit about one of these beloveds, Shanalika Iela Dior Hemingway, who also went by Sid, was known for a smile as bright as her future. She was born and raised in Guilderland, New York, and was close with her mom, cousins, and her niece. She graduated from Albany High School and studied at Hudson Valley Community College. She turned 30 at the beginning of May. She had just graduated from the University of Albany with a bachelor's degree, where she was the recipient of the 2022 Spelman Academic Achievement Award. We share this story in part because this hate crime happened locally. And we also share it because there has been an important movement started by young trans folks on Breakout, a website for trans youth and young adults. They wanted to honor ancestors and the tragic losses, but also to name some of the powerful ways people who are transgender, gender non-conforming, gender queer, and non-binary are also making a difference in the community. Sid is missed. One of the poets on that website, Vita E., wrote, "We are the wildest dreams of our transcestors come to life. The beautiful artwork and poetry, lifting up the beauty and magic of the resilience of the trans community, has asked us to move from remembrance only to remembrance and resilience." We resonate with the words from the Forward Together website that says our rebellious mourning recommits us to the living. We refuse to forget or forfeit our power, even in the face of epidemic violence. We remember, we are pure possibility. Our freedom dreams could set the whole world free. And looking at that website, I believe them.
There are people of many ages in this congregation who are gender nonconforming, gender queer, non-binary, transgender, and or gender fabulous. It is so much more than getting pronouns right or bathroom signs right, and both of those things are very important, yet they're a bare minimum in affirming gender diversity. We also need to interrogate the false constructs of the gender binary that keep far too many of us in boxes that are too small and subject to gender expectations that are too narrow. We need to intervene somehow in the many anti-trans kids bills that are happening all over the country, many of them in the states that you just heard us speak.
On this day, we remember. On this day, we resist. On this day, we build resilience through welcome, connection, and truth-telling. We gather together to join in the journey, confirming, committing our passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation, when bound to human care and hope, then we are free. Let us now sit in the quiet together for a few moments to honor these lives and so many before them lost to violence. And then Maria will play George Winston's piece called Thanksgiving, that we might hold the poignancy of loss and the possibility of a brighter future where all are welcome. Into the quiet.
There are so many different kinds of bread in the world. Yes? Yeah? What are some different kinds of bread that you can think of? Go ahead, just call them out. Sourdough, I'm rye bread, garlic knots. Yes. Pizza dough, stuffing. Mmm. There brown bread. There's naan and tortillas and bagels. Challah, lampa, injera, crackers, date nut bread. So many different kinds. Whew. Do you like bread? I do. I do a lot. Um, and some people don't so much, and some of us need to be gluten free or nut free or dairy free. But many people all over the world enjoy bread and eat bread. Well, sometimes we might feel ordinary. We might tell ourselves, I'm not really that special. I'm kind of plain. The things I can do, they're just simple. That may be true. Simple is not bad. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm that every person matters, every part of them, just like every ingredient in bread makes the final product unique. Our humanity is both simple and precious. And every time we share something of ourselves with someone else, it matters. So this morning, I mixed up some batter for pumpkin bread. And Caden Kilby is going to help me get some of that batter into tins. And then we'll put them in this toaster oven to bake while we're hearing a story. Now, while we do this, if you brought bread to share after the service, go ahead and call out what you brought. And if you're here on Zoom, you could even put into the chat either what kind of bread you're enjoying today or what kind of bread represents your tradition or family heritage. I heard apple bread and Kalamata olive bread and biscuits. Here we go. Garlic nuts, Italian bread, date nut bread, Tortillas. Bread with olive oil and sesame seeds. Oh, pumpkin bread with chocolate chips. Go ahead. Raise. Yeah. Yeah. I'll see your chocolate chips. And no, just kidding. Okay. Zucchini bread. Yes. Banana bread. Yum. What are some of the ingredients in bread?
Wait. I'm going to say something.
Okay. Great.
On Zoom, we have scones, marble rye, and Greek white. Oh, scones if you're British, yes, right? Scones if you're watching the British baking show. Sweet potato, sweet potato pone, banana walnut muffins, sourdough bread. Those are things that are listed out on our Zoom room. Oop, and more are coming. Dilly bread with caraway, pepperoni bread, bread pudding. All right, now ingredients. Go ahead and call out ingredients.
Yeast, flour. I heard water. And you know what? I will pretend. Water. Salt. Eggs. Sunflower seeds. Yeah. I don't have any of those to show. Flax seeds. Sugar. Sourdough starter. Yumminess. Yumminess goes into bread. Bananas. Each of those ingredients by themselves may seem a little simple. Some of them might not to you. But each thing added at the right time and in the right amount makes for yumminess. It's kind of like us. We need the right things at the right time. We need to share things in the right amount. Yes? Yeah? Any of us might be too much at some times. Yep. Kaden, thank you so much. I think that these are going to be ready to put into the toaster oven, and I think that we're ready for a story. Uh, yes. This story is called The Queen's Loaves, and it is a Jewish story from Afghanistan, and it was adapted by our wonderful colleagues Erica Hewitt and Becky Brooks.
And they gave us permission to adapt it some more, which we have done for this morning. This story takes place over the course of 3 mornings. Each morning begins the same way, with Queen Ambrosia waking up in her palace to the smell of fresh baked bread.
I love bread. I love it plain or toasted. I love it with butter and honey. I love it with tea, and I love it with ale. Most of all, I love smelling it baking in the morning.
The queen, you see, had given the royal baker instructions to begin baking bread before the sun rose, so that by the time the roosters were crowing and the queen's tummy was rumbling for breakfast, there would be fresh bread to eat.
It's time for breakfast. But before I eat my bread, I must give some to those who are hungry.
Outside of Queen Ambrosia's palace at the royal gates, there were 2 people. Neither had enough to eat. And so over the years, they'd come to sit at the queen's palace and ask for a loaf of bread. Every morning they arrived at dawn, and every morning before she ate her own plate of bread, Queen Ambrosia gave a loaf of the royal baker's bread to each of the people who were hungry.
Good morning.
And fair morning to you, your royal highness.
Aye, your majesty, may the sun shine upon you warmly today.
The baker has just taken these loaves out of the oven. May they feed you and your families well.
And then the queen braced herself for what would come next, something that truth be told, bothered her quite a bit. You see, every morning after receiving their loaf of bread, the first one would say,
Thank you, Queen Ambrosia. Your generosity is very much appreciated.
that was well and dandy. The queen liked hearing about her generosity. But when the second one received their loaf, they always said,
Thank you, God, for the sun and rain and earth and human hands that changed a simple seed into this delicious loaf of bread which the Queen has given.
God, rain? Why do they say that? Why must they thank God every day when it is I who gives them the loaf? I've listened to them thank God, sun and rain, morning after morning, and by now I am provoked. Can they not be grateful to me? I can no longer overlook this person's lack of gratitude. Tomorrow, I shall teach them a lesson. I shall richly reward the one who thanks me. The one who thanks the sun, the rain, and the earth will get an ordinary loaf, as always. Royal Baker? Every morning you give me 2 loaves to distribute to the hungry people at the castle gate. Tomorrow morning, though, I ask something different of you. I hope you will not think it odd.
I shall do as you wish, Your Highness.
In this bag are some precious jewels, rubies, sapphires, and emeralds, taken from the royal vault. Tomorrow, bake 2 identical loaves, but conceal these jewels in one of them.
the baker agreed to this request, no matter how odd it sounded, and early the next morning, morning number 2, they prepared the dough for the day's loaves. As always, Queen Ambrosia was awakened by the smell of baking bread. She remembered her instructions to the baker and hastily made her way to the royal bakery.
As you requested, Your Highness, 2 identical-looking loaves of bread. This is the one that contains the jewels. I do not think that you will confuse them, for the one that bears the jewels is much heavier than the other.
Queen Ambrosia thanked the royal baker, and before she even thought to sit down to her own breakfast, rushed to the castle gates.
Today is the day to reward the one who thanks me and to give nothing but bread to the one who thanks God. Good morning to you. As always, my baker has prepared some special loaves for you.
Thank you, Queen Ambrosia, as usual, for this gift of bread.
And thank you as usual, God, for the rain and sun and earth and human hands that turned a simple seed into this delicious loaf of bread given by the Queen.
This bread feels very heavy. There's something strange about it. I think maybe the assistant baked it, and it's probably not as good. Friend, this bread is kind of large. I think it's bigger than yours. Would you like to exchange yours for mine? I would like you to have this.
I would never refuse you. But you know what? I think this one's
Keep that.
you know, this is you actually have the bigger one, and mine is actually really heavy. So you do take that one, and Godspeed, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay. I have been working so hard this morning. I'm so hungry. My family is waiting for me at home, but They won't begrudge me just a little bread before I go home. Just gonna break off a piece here. What's this? Oh, jewels! Oh my goodness! Rubies, sapphires, emeralds in that loaf of bread. Oh my goodness, I am rich now. Thank you, God, for this miracle. I will never have to beg again.
Then came the third morning. It began how? By Queen Ambrosia waking up to the smell of baking bread. As soon as her eyes opened, she remembered the previous day's trick with the 2 loaves and was eager to go down to the palace gates to see how the hungry people had each received their loaf. She received 1 loaf of bread from the royal baker and went outside. But when she got to the gates, she was surprised to see only the first hungry person, the one she intended to reward with jewels.
Good morning, Your Majesty.
Yes, good morning. Tell me, where is your companion?
She's not here. In fact, she would never have to want for bread again, and that she would never beg at your gate again.
I see. And tell me, what did you do with the loaf of bread that I gave you yesterday?
Oh, there was a bit of a mix-up, you will remember. Um, I gave her the one that you gave me because it's strange to me, and we switched. Was that what? Did I do something wrong, Your Majesty?
The queen fell silent as the realization dawned that although she was a mighty queen, she didn't have the power to make a poor person rich or a rich person poor. When the second hungry person had failed to thank her for bread, she became irritated, being thanked in the way she desired. By trying to offer reward and punishment, that is, to teach the hungry people a lesson, she had learned a painful lesson herself and lost a handful of royal jewels in the mix.
I can't do it. I just can't. No, 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 no. Oh,
Do what, pray tell? And good morning, friend.
I I can't keep the jewels that I found in the queen's loaf. And good morning to you as well.
Jewels? I'm astonished that you found jewels in the bread.
And I am astonished that you would say that you would not keep them. Why have you brought them back to me?
Many mornings I have sat at the palace gates asking for bread, but all I asked for was bread, Your Majesty. These jewels are not mine. Indeed, they were intended to be in the loaf for my friend here, and we bartered about which loaf to take.
Wait, what now?
I am grateful and I am humbled. I accept the jewels back, even as I thank you for what you have said and done. Your generosity of spirit has inspired me to consider how we might use these jewels to make some much needed changes in our land so that no families need to come to the palace gates for bread, that each family might have what it needs to thrive. It may take some time to implement, and I am committed to increasing the resilience of the inhabitants of this country. I want to know what would help your families thrive. In fact, let's start today. Go and get your families, and instead of giving you each a loaf of bread today, I shall ask my royal baker and royal cooks to prepare the finest of meals, and I shall help them too, that we may all share and give thanks to God for, how is it you put it, friend?
We shall give thanks to God for the sun and the rain and earth and human hands that made this delicious bread. How lucky we are to be able to eat this bread, which began only as a seed and was nurtured by the universe and hard-working people until it was brought to the table.
And how lucky we will be to drink the finest wine and juice, which began as a small vine and was nurtured by the universe and hardworking people until they were poured into the glasses that shall grace our table.
And so the hungry people rushed off to collect their families, one maybe a little bit less enthusiastically than the other, perhaps to tell them the dramatic story of the past day, and the queen went into her palace to help prepare a feast. So ends my share of the story. Folks were invited to bring a bread or bread product this morning that represents your heritage, your experience, or your tradition. We'll share all of those breads after the service in the dining room, hopefully along with some delicious soups. We hope that now, though, you'll take a look around and see if anybody around you needs bread brought to them. Thank you over there. Great. And take this moment and just look at the bread in your hand. Those you two on Zoom, if you have bread nearby, or just imagine it. The spiritual practice of gratitude and a spiritual practice of resilience in which we honor our different lineages, complicated and beautiful, offered to nourish our souls and our bodies. You are invited to carefully unmask as you feel willing and comfortable doing, and bring this precious bread and sniff and taste and chew and swallow such goodness. Mm-mm-mm. Thank you, Allison and Miranda Dubray. Thank you to all, and Brian Cherry for the bread on the back. Thank you. Thank you to all who brought bread and soups. May all be so nourished. May all be so fed.